Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. So guys, I bought you a couple of weeks ago a guide to Faction Wars looking at rares and epics that you can use to build teams in every faction to get you through this event, through Faction Wars. The feedback to that was, fantastic, you're amazing, you're so good, I love it, you're so brilliant. But, and you know what I say guys, anything before but is bullshit. So, version 2 coming up today. Version 2 is going to include all the legendary champions, and it's going to include the new epics that have dropped and the new legendary that's dropped as part of this fusion. So, this is going to be your guide to Faction Wars. The good thing about these sheets, these guides that I do, is that you can look at it from your perspective and say, which of these champions have I got? Which of them should I level up to 50, 60, whatever? And I'll help you through that as I go through the sheets today. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to start as ever with how to build a team. So guys, before we get into the main part of the video, I would love for you to do something for me. I have got a second YouTube channel, Hell Hades Incarnate. Basically, I have been asked to collaborate and support a new game that's being developed called Incarnate. Really cool game. It's almost a bit like Final Fantasy Tactics in terms of visual and kind of like board dynamic, but it's a gotcha style game. So I'm helping them with their game development. I'm helping them with what buffs to bring to the game, what debuffs, what's overpowered and what's not really kind of working right, what's not making me excited about the game. And amazingly, I'm able to give away 100 pre-alpha keys to this game to my community. So firstly, you'd need to be a sub to this channel. Secondly, you need to come and get involved with me on Twitch. And we're going to be starting to do the giveaways from next Friday. So the 16th of October. I'm going to have about 100 keys to give away. But yeah, check out the new video. Come and subscribe to my second channel, please. I think you'll enjoy it. So, let's get on with the Faction Wars stuff. You can skip this bit if you've seen it before, but it's worth refreshing your memory. There's a number of things in Faction Wars you need to do. Ideally, have someone that drops defense on an AoE basis. The further you get through Faction Wars, the more defense the enemies you're against have, and the harder it is to kill them without dropping defense. You need crowd control to get yourself through the waves, so that you're not just getting absolutely mashed down. You need some sort of healing or support, whether that's an actual healer or whether it's lifesteal gear. You need a revive champion, ideally, if you're getting taken out, especially when you get towards the end of the Faction War levels, because you need to get 3 stars. If you don't get 3 stars, you're not getting all the juicy rewards in Faction Wars, and you're not going to complete the levels. So 3 stars really important. Revive champions picks people up towards the end. You get your 3 stars. You need damage. You've got to be able to take out the mobs. And you need turn meter control, whether that's decreasing their turn meter or increasing yours to cycle through your abilities quicker. So this is kind of like my base of how do I build a team. And then I take that and build it into a sheet by faction. So here we go. I've pretty much, from when you saw this last time, I've added a legendary column. So we've got AoE decreased defense as an area, damage dealers, AoE decreased attack, crowd control, healers, protectors, revive champions, and turn meter control champions. So look, clearly guys, I do not know everything about everything, but I know a lot about a lot. So what I've done, I've added these champions in, I've put legendaries into the different areas where I feel like they can play. So, someone like a Baron, for example, he's literally just a damage dealer. If you can afford to bring someone in just for damage, he does a ton of damage. And when he unlocks his hidden skill, he'll clean out a whole wave if you've geared him properly. Septimus will just smack people around. Some of the epics I've actually moved up to the legendary status. So a Stag Knight, for me, plays with the legendaries. He's on the same level as a lot of those legendaries. And some legendaries I've pulled down. So Richtof the Bold, he does a reasonable amount of damage, but for me, he's in that kind of great category, not in the legendary category. Some champions you'll see appear multiple times. Raglan, for example, great healer protector, great revive champion, and she's got some turn meter control in her kit as well. So I've just tried to tier them in all the different areas. One of the things you should look for is, do my champions appear in multiple places? Can they fulfill more than one role at the same time? So for Bannerlords, the legendaries actually do a good job here of being legendary and staying at the top. You know, my MVPs would probably be Raglin, Sethalia, probably Lugan as well, and even Killian actually. Killian is great for Faction Wars. It's easily his best place in the game. So let's have a look at High Elves. High Elves, we've added the legendaries in. High Elves is just like littered with good champions, like across the board. Massive damage hitters, great crowd control people. I will say, I use a Yumi Love for various different things. I have checked their stats on some of these champions, and you know, it's always worth looking at different areas. So for me, Shiramani is brilliant, like brilliant for Faction Wars. On a Yumi Love site, they kind of cast her down for Faction Wars. And I'm sure I get stuff wrong as well. Look, I'm not saying they're wrong. I just disagree personally. But you know, it's always worth checking 2 or 3 kind of sources of information before you make your decisions, especially when you're trying to 6-star. You know, maybe you're only looking to 6-star 1 or 2 champions a month. So, you know, don't just take my word for it here, but certainly this is where I feel like they sit. And I have updated it from last time where people said to me, you know what, I feel like that champion was overstated. So I'm like, okay, let me rethink it. So people like Arbiter, Lysandra, massive in this faction. If you've got an Ethos, he's there as an absolute damage like dealer, massive champ. I still feel like Tayrell's king of the decreased defense in this set. Shiramani is just like insanely strong for crowd control, and she also brings heals as well. She's in my team, really good champ. And then you've got some of the epics which, you know, can still stand up kind of toe to toe with the legendaries in some areas of the game. So let's move on to Sacred Order. Sacred Order are just got fantastic legendaries. But what I've also done is I've added in Armiger, who's an uncommon, to this sheet, which I didn't have last time around, because he is actually on a legendary status for turn meter control, better than anyone else in this faction. Abess has recently been buffed. She's now top tier damage dealer and a great AoE decreased defense champion. She's probably in the legendary box, to be fair, but Venus also brings AoE weaken, so it's like, how can I put them on a par? You know, but the legendaries in this faction are pretty much all good except Errol, who is just not good for Faction Wars. But, you know, so Nick, crazy amount of sustain and damage. Marta, lots of damage and crowd control. Roshkard, actually quite a bit of damage, probably could go into the damage tab, but also crowd control and protection. So the legendaries here, pretty much all of them, except Errol, feature very highly. So if we have a look at the Barbarians then, again, Barbarians, it's almost comical. Like, Barbarian Faction Wars is really hard to do, and then if you pull 1 or 2 legendaries, it becomes very easy to do. That's the difference with the legendaries here. Valkyries, Ultans, the new Void champion, Usaga, I think is going to be literally the best champion in Barbarians for Faction Wars. Seal comes in as a great champion for Faction Wars, basically featuring in the God tier for 3 different areas. And then you've still got like a nice kind of balance of a couple of rares that can do a lot of work for you. So Barbarians is a pretty equal faction, or pretty balanced faction, for being able to bring in different types of rarities and actually get the job done. I've put Baroth in here. He's got some turn meter control. He's got some heals and protection. I think he's pretty good. I'm going to be putting a video out on him tomorrow. But I think he will come into most people's Faction Wars team and do a job. So on to Ogryn Tribes. Ogryn Tribes actually doesn't have legendaries, which massively changed the game here. So, you know, I'd say epics are the standout winners in this faction. Maneater, Grush, Shatterbones, and probably, I mean, it's a rare, but Bellower are probably like MVPs. Grush especially. Grush is like top tier Faction War champion for this faction. But for me, Gergo comes in like top MVP crowd control champ. And Biggin, I don't have him, but I've seen him. he is a beast for Faction Wars as well. Some of the other ones, I've got War Mother in here. She can do a bit of damage. Ignatius can hit hard, do some damage. He's got some crowd control. And Shamrock can do a bit of work, but nowhere near the quality of some of these other guys. So for me, Ogryn Tribes is one of those factions where epics and rares actually still rule the roost. So on to Lizardmen then. This is the opposite. Lizardmen are shocking unless you get yourself a few legendaries. Or a couple, even one legendary can make a massive difference. For me, MVPs are Fushan, Razin, Draco, Krisk. But Skull if you fused him, can do a lot of work for you here. He's in my main team. I actually very much rate this new guy, Vergumkar. I think he will help a lot of people out with this faction if you fuse him. I know there's contention around should you fuse him or not because of the way they've done the fusion, but if you can, I'd say you should. Krisk in here, MVP actually, so good in so many different areas. But yeah, ideally, if you get one or two legendaries, this faction becomes tons easier. So let's move on to Skinwalkers then. Skinwalkers, we've added in Coronar, massively features in all these different areas. He's a crazy champion for Faction Wars. Brachus and Longbeard can get your damage out. I put Fane in here for God tier damage. But I'm saying God tier damage, but on bosses, because her damage is single target, but she does bring that decreased defense, weaken, decreased attack, poison, and a decent hit. So if you can keep her alive, actually she'll do you a good job here. They lack revived champions in this faction, so you do need to keep people alive. Smash Lord is the best champion in the faction to do that. And Norod can come in and do a bit of damage and a little bit of crowd control. So again, other than Coronar, I don't feel like, maybe Smash Lord, I don't feel like the legendaries massively changed the game here. Basher is still one of the best champions. Even though he only features in a couple of areas, he's one of the best champions for this faction because of the skill that he does. Steel Skull, great protector in this one. But yeah, and Ursine Ironhide is also really valuable in this faction. Let's go on to Orcs then. Orcs, we've got, the Gorgeous Warlord doing work in loads of areas, easily God tier for this faction. Kreela will come in and do a ton of work on damage, but only damage. Robar featured in 3 areas here. He's a really good, solid champion for Faction Wars. Stunning, decreased defense, and does a good amount of damage. And then I've put two hack in here for just a bit of turn meter control. Kind of weird kit. I've not played around with him yet, but I think he'll be pretty good in Faction Wars. Angar, obviously, great for crowd control. And then someone like Ultimate Gaelic just kind of features. Seer features a lot. The epics are really good here. Without legendaries, you can do this faction. If you get yourself a couple of these God tier ones, it makes it much easier. Tila, just pretty much, if that's all you got, you use her. But she's quite bad. As a legendary, she's bad. So, on to Demonspawn then. Lots of damage in the Demonspawn legendary club. So, you've got these 3, Inifui, Kutraxa, Kandrathon. You've got Lord Chazar as well. All pretty much just damage dealers. I don't love champions that are just damage dealers for my Faction War teams. Kandrathon might be a slight difference there because he can hide himself. But these 3, you've got to keep them up. I've had Inifui for a long time. For a long time, he wasn't making the cut. Wasn't making my team. People like Duchess, MVP here for the mass revive, the protection. Tyrant also for a lot of protection for your team. Kaimar's brilliant here as well for turn meter control and crowd control. But then, a lot of the epics do step up. Umbral steps up. Allure steps up. Paidma steps up. So the epics are really kind of top tier here for Faction Wars. So let's go into the Undead then. The Undead have got multiple good champions, right through the ranks. Rares through to legendaries. The legendaries are probably the best fleshed out faction in the game. If you've got Mashold, Nephril, Sifi, Harvest Jack, you've pretty much got all of the crowd control, turn meter control stuff that you need. So, it becomes then who do I want to pick with them? You've pretty much got a choice of, yeah, almost all the legendaries are great here. I'd say even like Suzerain does a ton of work. He does damage, he does AoE decreased defense. Blood Gorged does a good amount of work as well. Crypt King's probably the only one that doesn't really feature highly anywhere. But all the other legendaries in this camp are great. And the epics and rares are also very, very strong. So you can come in, pick your team out. Really, it should be the easiest faction for, I'd say, almost anyone to complete, maybe except High Elves. So Undead, check out the sheet, pick out your team. Plenty of these can be run at level 50 as well. Pretty much when I'm looking at level 50 champs, it tends to be crowd controllers, healers, protectors, revive champions, turn meter controllers. All of those can be run at level 50 if you gear them in the right way. So let's go on to the Dark Elves. Dark Elves, again, really well fleshed out faction. Legendaries come in and do work. The legendaries here to look out for, I'd say, are Ray. Ray comes in as like legendary tier damage dealer. Plus, she's legendary tier crowd controller. So, with her AoE freeze, such a great ability. It also rips all of their buffs off, so massive ability there. Blind Seer, since a buff, massively kind of steps up. She is legendary tier for healer, protector, and reviver. Caden, new champion, legendary tier as well. Lots of epics and rares making legendary tiers here. So Sylar, Coldheart, Caden, Madame Cerise, Spider, all of those guys absolutely like MVPs in their own rights. Obviously, you don't pick Spider and Madame Cerise and Caden. Like, you don't need everyone doing the same role. So once you've filled a role, then you want to be looking for the other areas, yeah? But tons of options in Dark Elves. Dark Elves really well fleshed out. Some of the legendaries which don't really step up. Vizier, I don't really see that he's got a massive place in Faction Wars. Queen Eva, very difficult to keep alive and kind of weak. She does have a bit of turn meter control, which is okay. But yeah, very good faction. Again, lots of options there. Night Revenants then. Night Revenants has got actually relatively few legendaries. And those legendaries don't help you that much. I'd say this is another kind of like very different scoring from what Yumilov do. Tomb Lord, I think, is the MVP of this faction. Like, there's not a better champion in the Night Elves Night Revenants for me for Faction Wars. Turn meter control. He can drop turn meter completely if the enemy's got less than half health. AoE decreased defense, AoE decreased attack. He does AoE poison as well. Very cool champ. Bistophus can do some damage and a bit of. He's got a chance to do AoE decreased defense, so he's okay for that. Quite squishy though. Hedgie can kind of lock stuff out, lock people out, decrease attack, and's got some turn meter control options, so he's pretty good here. Whirlim actually steps up here, better than anywhere else in the game, I'd say. Some healing and protection, some crowd control. But you're still really looking to your epics. You're still looking for your miscreated monsters, golden reapers, Sinacia, skull crowns. Those sort of guys will still come in and do a ton for you. Doom Priest as well is also really strong here. So on to the last one then, which is going to be the Dwarves. Dwarves are just sparse. They're sparse of champions. If you've managed to pull a Trunda and you've pulled a Morley, congratulations, you've won Faction Wars. Otherwise, you struggle a lot. Grizzled Joel, great champion. But yeah, pretty much Morley for me, MVP. Grizzled Joel, very strong epic. And Rearguard Sergeant, also a pretty good epic. But Dwarves struggle hard. It's the only one I've got left to do, guys. I'm going to try and do it tonight on stream. If you want to come and join me, Hell Hades TV. I'm literally on the last level, and it's the only one I've got left until complete Faction Wars. So I've been doing a bit of re-gearing, and we'll see what we can get done tonight with that. So guys, I'm going to put the link to this spreadsheet in the video below, and it's going to be in my description of all videos. Come and use this resource. And as ever, feedback in the description below. If there's anyone I've missed, that massively should be in this list. Anyone that I've just kind of put in a completely wrong place, please let me know. I'm not infallible. And yeah, good luck with Faction Wars, guys. Bring it on. I've been Hell Hades. I'll catch you later.